I began talking with a lot of churches about incorporating because the world had changed on us. And that really is what brought about these discussions. Even some of the churches that are incorporating now, way out in the country, when I ask them, is your community changing? The answer is always drastically. People coming in from not just around the country, they're coming in from all over the world. And a lot of them with very, very different attitudes from what we grew up with around here. So we all have a responsibility to our fellow church members, to the greater church itself. And we have a responsibility as trustees of the church to look into the future. And that's really what the trustees do. We look way out in the future. We talk roofs and foundations and all that kind of thing about our church building, but we also think about our legal side as well. And part of what we do is to protect ourselves as a church and protect the members of the church as well. Actually, the history of incorporating churches is not particularly full. A lot of churches never thought about incorporating and had no particular need to incorporate. Everybody that attended the church lived within a few miles. They all knew each other. Things were worked out. If disputes arose, they just worked it out. But with all this change that has come about, truly, we are in a different situation now. We do deal with people that are far more likely to sue a church just as they are likely to sue each other. And that's sometimes just a way of life for them. It's another income source, is to be involved in lawsuits, and they're looking for them. What does happen is with personal injury liability or any other kind of liability, people getting hurt on the church grounds or just getting in disputes, we find that they are quick on the trigger now, a whole lot quicker than they used to be. They're really not looking to work things out. They're looking to work the church over and work over the members as well. And folks, we have a busy church these days, much busier than it was 35, 40 years ago. You think about all the activities with the AA meeting there, the school, the scouts. You just go down the list of all the activities going on and think about how many people come and go and all that happens. Keep in mind that incorporating the church doesn't affect anything about what we believe. How we conduct our services actually doesn't change much about how we operate, but we're going to learn to operate as a corporation. And it does change the way the members own the church. We own it anyway. It's not ours, of course, but we own the church and we care for it. But will some disgruntled member of the church sue someday? Will somebody outside the church sue someday? It's not whether it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. We are going to have it happen to us. And I wish I could tell you that all of our folks are cooperative, all of them pleasant, and all of them just looking to be getting along and doing the right things, and I can't say that because it's not that way anymore. We have, again, folks who are literally looking to the church, to any other deep pocket that they see, to be the place where they get an extra income stream. And that's real unfortunate, but we have to live with it. In an unincorporated church, when a judgment comes against us, of course the church itself is liable for the judgment. But the members of that unincorporated church are individually liable as well. That's the problem. It is the individuals who make up that unincorporated association who have to also pony up the money in the event our insurance coverage cannot cover a liability. With an incorporated church, only the assets of the church itself stand good for any sort of debt amount. That is the building, the parsonage, the church van, whatever else we own, but not the individual members and not their assets. You know, we tend to think of only personal liability on injury type cases. Somebody gets run over in the parking lot. Somebody falls off a scaffolding or whatever. Some child is hurt in some sort of odd way on the church grounds. But where we've been finding the lawsuits coming at us are with employee relations, employee harassment, sexual harassment cases, the child molestation cases. And it doesn't take much these days for a big court judgment to vastly exceed, I mean vastly, vastly exceed any kind of insurance coverage that we could ever afford. So yes, there is a need to be incorporating the church so as to give us that corporate protection for the individual members. But again, fellows, we do have to act like a corporation. It's not enough just to set up the corporate entity. You have to act like a corporation. You have to always follow the rules of corporate law. Otherwise, that corporate entity can be lifted, it can be pierced by the court. So we have to be a little bit careful when we incorporate as well. I'll give you an example. If any of us were to go down to the Chevrolet dealership and buy a car, we talked to some salesperson. Of course, Wayne, the minister here, is just liable to go off and buy a red Corvette convertible any day now. And when he's down there talking to the salesman, he has no thought whatever that that salesman is selling him the car individually. Never enters his mind. He's down there at the Chevrolet dealership. There's the name out front, incorporated right there on the name. All the papers he signs, everything has that dealership name on it. And whoever signs for the dealership signs in some sort of representative capacity. They're signing as a salesman or a manager, something like that. We have to be the same way once we incorporate the church. We have to put the proper corporate name out front. We have to have our membership that serves on the corporate board of directors, which is the trustees, always acting as a corporation, signing as a corporation. We have to be sure that the papers we sign not signed in any way that could be interpreted as being an individual signature of a member. Rather, it's chairman, board of trustees. That way we're representing the trustees, representing the church with that signature. And that's the sort of thing that I go through with you. In fact, I have a lengthy letter that I leave in the church file reminding the church how to act like a corporation. Once the church gets in that rhythm, it's not hard to do. Plenty of churches have done it. But part of that change is, of course, changing the signage, making sure ink appears on your sign out front, the bulletin, the directional signs, the letterhead, business cards, the website. In other words, you go down the list and figure every place our name appears, and we'll change that name to show Incorporated. A lot of what made this process easier is that just about every church now keeps its records on computer. And it's real simple to program in a tickler system to remind us, for instance, to have the corporate meeting, annual meeting every year, do other things that we have to do as a corporation. That part has been made a whole lot simpler over the years by computerization. Folks, keep in mind what we're really doing by incorporating is making sure that if the big judgment ever does come against us and it exceeds our insurance coverage, the individual members don't have to stand good for that judgment. It's just the assets of the church. One of your ways that you get these cases settled is for a plaintiff to know they can only get the assets of the church. The building. A lot of these plaintiffs do not want to own the church building. It's a whole lot harder to market than an awful lot of things in life. They're a lot quicker to settle and make sure that they can get some money. And that's often the way that we're able to get these matters settled up. I'm going to leave with you a letter here from our district superintendent strongly urging us to incorporate. I don't think Dr. Royals beats around the bush at all with his letter. He's very strongly in favor of our incorporating